Oh boy, 3-2 game fives, couple of 3-0s, but boy did we have a day today. I'm Alan IHOLDSHIFT down a Frio.
And I'm Austin Visions Neil.
This, of course, is the Defuse. If it's your first time here, you've missed 9 episodes. We're on episode number 10. It's been an incredible journey so far, and my goodness, it feels almost strange, Austin, to have a full day worth of Call of Duty. I mean, it feels like we've had full weeks of Call of Duty, but for 3 o'clock starts, we're typically not going live at 10. Typically, we're live by 7. This is wild. It's kind of weird.
This is wild. I'm kind of liking it, Alan. I mean, lots of games. I mean, these game fives just kind of extend things for us. So it gives us lots to talk about and lots to really break down. I feel like this was one of the best days of Call of Duty we've had in a while, right?
I mean, without question, so many storylines, and that's what we expect to get when it comes to a Stage 1 major. But hey, it's time for getting out of the banter and into
First Blood.
My man, I don't even know how we can even choose a topic to start with. I mean, we have so many hot topics to go through. There's so many matchups that we could recap for like hours on end. We got to start somewhere, so we might as well get things kicking with what I'm sure all the people are here for. They got to get our reactions off of what happened between Dallas and Chicago. I mean, that's, I think, a lot of what we expected at the beginning of the year. If you were to say, hey, Dallas, Chicago, first time they play, what's it going to look like? eClasico definitely provided this year without question.
This was a banger series. Probably one of the best series we've gotten thus far in towards Cold War.
Absolutely.
And it's the fact that these guys are just so well matched. And there was just so many moments where we were just on the edge of our seats. I mean, this was really one of the most thrilling matches I think I've seen in such a long time. And it's because of the way that I think it really pans out for us, right? If anything, I felt like OpTic Gaming was probably going to be the team that was coming away with the hardpoint wins. And maybe Dallas was clutching up in towards the search and destroys. But that was kind of reversed, right? It was actually Dallas who was coming out really strong. Hook the Nuke. I mean, if you don't say Hook's name at least like 10 times, it feels like during this first blood. I mean, like it feels like we're doing the man dirty, because there was a lot of moments where it felt like he had just such an incredible individual impact on the map that was just changing how OpTic was able to play their game. And really, they weren't allowed to play their game because some of those hard points weren't very close, especially when we got into that first one. We got a lot of people were really just getting into a groove, it felt like, for Dallas.
So let's start with those hard points first and foremost. We had the Garrison that came up early. We know that Chicago and their P2, when it comes to that map, has not been notoriously good. Beyond that point, you also still have to consider that they're also not very good rotating from 4 to 5 either. But to see Dallas come out that hot with Hook specifically, I mean, that in my mind is not necessarily Dallas's not just being better than Chicago on that map. I feel like they came out on top of the map picks and bans overall. But to put Chicago on a Garrison and a Moscow, where we've seen them play pretty regularly, but we also seen them have really beefed opportunities, I think it's really smart for Dallas to find a way to get both those maps in the pool to kick things off for both of those two respawns.
That was honestly great for them. And, I'm sure probably big shout out to Rambo, who played a massive factor in making sure that he was prepping for, this big matchup, because, at some point in time, like Dallas, FaZe, OpTic, they're all going to clash. So you have to be prepared for these matchups. And it did feel like Dallas really was prepared for this, despite it going the distance and getting ourselves all the way in towards, a game number 5. There was just a lot of moments where Dallas fixed mistakes that were happening against some teams that we would consider to be a lot weaker, right?
Like
I think that was the big question mark. Like London. Yeah. I mean, like Rocker, right, earlier on and towards the first week. So there was a lot of things where like, does Dallas Empire still have it? And I think that they really did answer that question for us going up against OpTic. There was a lot of players that were stepping up for us, and it was the teamwork that was coming together, right? Like we've seen all these players like be able to step up at individual times, very similar to a lot of other teams, but it's like, can they actually make that work and take down a team that is so good at slaying, so good at being able to, really just wipe you off the map and then punish you extremely hard for it?
Yeah, the whole thing, going back, and why I bring up London, you got to remember that both of these two maps were where Dallas played London, and they lost both those hard points. And I think at that point, we were like, oh man, this Dallas team, they're coming off of a loss to Minnesota. Like, they are not going to be a competitor this year. And then to come back, and essentially, I have to feel like they finessed when it came down to this particular set of maps, like flat out. Like, it just feels like this was a predetermined plan of, let's make sure we're not playing checkmate, let's make sure we're not playing raid, let's put them on 2 maps that they know they're pretty comfortable on, but they're not necessarily great with. So the fact of the matter is, if you come out as Dallas and you play this well against a team like Chicago, you have to figure you're gonna win, because in no world do you take both hard points versus Chicago and feel like you're going to lose the match. Because, like, Chicago, I think up until this match, we were saying definitively best respawn team of the game. You take both hard
Yes.
points for them, you're going to be in a really good spot to win the match. And that, in my mind, is why this turned out in front of Dallas, even though we did go to a round 11 map 5.
Yeah, I mean, that round 11 map 5, right? Like crazy timing on Envoy and Hook kind of passing each other under that left wing. Like there were some crazy moments that really did kind of take place for us. And when we got towards the map 5, like the fact that it even got to the round 11, I think on itself was pretty surprising. Hook, he
Absolutely
got
it was,
himself
yeah.
both streaks. It was 5-3 at one point in time. Dallas, had the defense in it. We know checkmate, search, destroy at this point in time. It's usually defense for defense for defense. It's the first team that's usually finally able to take an offense. Like that same storyline from our club peak, essentially from last year in Modern Warfare, kind of implemented in towards a lot of the maps that play for us in search and destroy due to the lack of smokes and being able to be creative. And I think that we finally saw OpTic find some success, force out a lot of those streaks, despite Hook being able to weave in that crazy curve for Scump, right? Like there was just so many moments where you look back on that and like, man, just imagine if there was a crowd almost behind that, right? And what it would have been, but it was still an incredible series. And yeah, I think even OpTic know, like, all right, like we can't necessarily be mad about that one, right? Like it was so tight, it was so close. Maybe we have to look back on these hard points, but overall, I will say the search and destroy has looked a lot better since getting smacked around from Atlanta FaZe.
And I was actually, we were kind of watching in call, watching that call in specific for Hugh sitting there and saying, this is the round I'm going to be using the ping and the cruise missile. I loved the call because it was looking like a very defensive affair up until that point where the cruise missile gets bent in, it opens up that B site, and they're able to get the bomb planted because of it. Yeah, I think that, again, you're starting to see why this Dallas team is as good as they are. We had questions about them. I think everyone did, coming into this tournament overall. They've got a very difficult bracket. Would they be able to get past the opponents that were in front of them even to see a winners finals, let alone maybe even a grand finals behind that? So overall, I think you have to be feeling pretty darn happy if you're the Dallas Empire fan about how things transpired, even though you're still unable to crack the egg of a Chicago control. They're still perfect on control. And then beyond that, also the Moscow search and destroy was a walloping. But still, the fact that you're able to take both hard points, that's great news without question. If you're a fan of the Dallas Empire, it's an incredibly positive storyline to take away from that match alone, even if they were to have lost it, for instance. But obviously that didn't happen here. Hey, about moving over, and this is one that, speaking of top teams, Atlanta going up against the Los Angeles Guerrillas. 3-0, but my goodness, did the Guerrillas make it difficult on Atlanta?
They made it difficult for sure. And I think that there's been, a lot of concerns about this Guerrillas roster. Again, like this is a squad that I think a lot of people kind of, writ off. And like, is this a squad that's going to be able to contend the top teams? Well, I think we got a yes out of them for as far as today. But I think that this was a more important match for Atlanta FaZe for the simple fact that we've seen a lot of these guys, or this team rather, go towards like these map 5s, these map 4s, and it feels like it wasn't the same dominance that was really kind of built up in the offseason where it's like, oh man, these guys are just going to 3-0 everyone. Like it's not even going to be close this year, right? Like they have Arcades now. Finally, they got a leader. And I think Arcades is starting to find his groove as the main AR. So this was a really important confidence match for the Atlanta FaZe to take out a squad that is actually extremely hot. And a lot of people have been overlooking for that simple fact. LEG's been able to actually come out on top, as we saw the other day against the Thieves. So this was a really big matchup, I think, personally, just for the side of Atlanta FaZe to be able to come away with a win and actually feel good about getting away with a pretty clean series despite it still being close.
I'm not going to lie. I did not expect you to take that spin, kind of talking about how this was more important for the Atlanta FaZe. But as you bring it up, I guess that is pretty true. I mean, you come off of a barely win versus the Paris Legion, who we saw their kind of true colors over the last 2 days. It's an interesting storyline. I came away feeling resounding favor to what I saw from the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Their win that they had versus the Thieves, I think there was a combination of the Thieves playing poorly and the Guerrillas playing well. But today, the Guerrillas forced Atlanta to have to make massive plays. That Garrison control was, they played that map perfectly from what we've seen them play it in the past. And that's all been losses for them in the past, including versus teams like Florida, and they played Atlanta there once before. But the corrections were incredible. And then beyond that, the fact that they got it down to making Arcades have to find a special play, that just goes to show that this Guerrillas team is absolutely for real. I absolutely became a big fan of the Guerrillas today after this performance versus Atlanta, even though it was a 3-0 sweep.
I think you just gotta always remember in the back of your mind, like this is the team, 3 out of 4 of these guys won champs in World War II, right? Like the
Yeah,
last 4v4 title. Like I think that's really overlooked for as far as what this team has. There was synergy here for these guys, man. Like it's just a matter of getting it to click. And I think Apathy is starting to find that form like he used to be in when we were in 4v4
sure.
year after year after year, right? Like I just remember like Apathy being the player that was almost the Simp, like was the Abizi, right? Like was the Scumpy for his teams. Like being able to go clutch and just being able to take over a map. Like that's what I think we've seen from Apathy as of late. And when you have players who are extremely selfless, like Silly, who is willing to play any role he needs to be able to help his team succeed, and you have Assault who is able to play this main AR, who I think has also been holding his own and took a lot of flack going in towards the season of whether or not he was the right AR pickup. Things are looking good for LAG. And I mean, this is still stage one, right? Like we're still so early in towards the season. There's so much Call of
Absolutely.
Duty to be played that this squad, I feel like, only gets stronger and stronger as we keep on continuing to go through the season.
The thing about it in just kind of watching this team grow together is, like you mentioned, you think back to that World War II run that they were able to put together to win champs. And I think a lot of people look at that as just being a special weekend worth of Call of Duty for them more than maybe anything else, because kind of running up to that event, this is years ago now.
Sure.
They were not at all in the conversation for
No, they
being
weren't.
being a top team, let alone even making it to a grand finals. But I still feel like a lot of people are looking at the Los Angeles Guerrillas as if they were the LAG from last year. The only
Yeah,
player
they
that's
are.
still here is Vivid, and he's been playing incredible. I mean, he
Yeah, he's
has
been
been
playing lights
putting
out.
so much pressure on the map individually. It allows, I think, a little bit more space, a little bit more comfort for someone like Apathy to run around and then, again, go back to 4v4 form. And you're just getting
Hmm.
great, consistent performance from your ARs as well. Especially considering that, again, I still look at Silly. It's like, man, it's still weird to see him rocking like the AR flex role compared to the roles he's played, at least in the last two
Hmm.
games. So I don't know, man. I am right alongside you with the point of this is a team that is already showing us a lot of great moments, and it is still gosh darn early. This team very well could be sitting top 6, top 5, even maybe top 4 as we get through not just this stage, because they still have the opportunity to make top 4,
They do.
but
They do.
especially going into that second stage, because we're starting to see, I feel like, a separation where we get into the CDL at the beginning of the year, and there are different skill tiers that are kind of put up. We have our top teams, you have your middle teams, and you have your teams that aren't quite there yet. And then there's a learning curve where some of that kind of mixes and mingles, and LAG are on the high track. Like, they are learning, I think, better than most, if not all, of the other teams that are out there right now. And that is an incredible stat line if you're a Guerrillas fan, of which I know there are not many. But I think there should be. I'll say that
There
much.
should be. We're rooting for them.
Really am, absolutely. Hey, how about Hydra though? He lands in the
Yes.
United States, and again, we had this conversation point earlier on in the season. Do you start? And this is actually a scrap time conversation. We only got to spend 20
Hmm.
seconds on it, but now we can spend 5 minutes on it. Do you start Hydra? Was the question initially. I think we both said no. There's no way because New York are looking so good so early. After the reverse sweep, I think if they lose 0-3, I think the conversation comes into play of,
Yeah,
okay,
you do.
I think you might have to give Hydra a chance.
I think
But you
so. I
you
mean,
you pull the reverse sweep off. Where's your head at now when it comes to Hydra?
yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, like you said, like if you lose that series 3-0, like you're probably like, all right, like let's get Hydra in. He's here, perfect timing. Let's see what he can bring to the table. But I mean, I feel like Clay had a really important moment on broadcast today after that matchup where he touched on like I went through so much like individual mental stress from trying to make sure I get all of these players who are currently on the subliners roster up in towards a winning state of mind and being able to bring these guys to understand how to actually play the game at the level that Clay plays at, because
Yeah,
it looked like he is extremely frustrated. And when you have that frustration from your in-game leader, like that's not got to sit too well with the rest of the players on the roster. So I think that him being brutally honest about what's happening, it's like, does he want to go through all of that again, bringing a new player in where it feels like he might have to re-explain all those things? I think that was something I touched on before, and I feel like that's got to be really straining for him to think about. Thing, all right, he might be insanely mechanical, but I still got to teach him a lot of the macro and well,
right.
teach him on how we want to play the game itself. So I think that the answer is you don't bring him in yet, but you got to get him on the academy squad, man. You got to get him somewhere where you can at least watch to see what he's doing and kind of keep a close eye on him.
It's so difficult because we framed up this conversation point. We'll just break the fourth wall here, audience at large. We put this on the First Blood because we figured that the subliners are going to lose that matchup. That was just kind of the way that we were. And I think if they lose that matchup, I think the conversation of does Hydra just immediately get inserted in. The timeline was saying, yeah, they were saying get Mac out, put Hydra in. But here's the thing. You pull off a reverse sweep, and you currently have the best challengers team in North America based on the elite results. What do you do with Hydra? Because are you really is this a Los Angeles Guerrillas Academy situation where you're sitting there saying that, okay, our Academy team is now purely focused on mental in their example.
Yeah.
Do you break up this Subliners Academy team to force Hydra on it? Because you're winning in challengers right now, and you've got a major cup coming up this weekend. You don't have to go through qualifiers for the next elite season. That's the good news, but how do you just look at that four who just won you a Challengers Elite, who are looking like they could be a team to win you a cup, and then say, sorry, so-and-so, Hydra's now here. We have to move you off the roster.
Well, I guess best case scenario for them is someone coming saying, hey, we want Saints. Let's bring him up. Let's call him up, right, to the Pro League. That's
the
best case scenario.
For you, yeah.
The decision's made for you, right? Like, that's what you're hoping for, I feel like. But at the same time, I don't think everything's been sunshine and rainbows for that squad. As much as they've seen a lot of success, I see these guys on the timeline a lot, and it's hard to judge because you don't know what's actually happening in the atmosphere and you know what's in the comms with each other. But it feels like these guys go through a lot of frustration, and I really do wonder, like, if they feel like just because Hydra is or was supposed to be a starter, like originally he was going to be on the main roster with Zuma, like that was the plan, and now you have this academy squad that is doing well, but maybe isn't all positive vibes behind the scenes. Just speculation. Like, do you still bring someone in? And I feel like if you do, it obviously has to be one of the submachine gun players. And I think Saints is playing too damn well to consider taking him out. Like, I don't think you would ever take Saints out of this roster, especially with the veteranship that he brings towards the squad. So you're looking at likely Prelude, right, as the player that you would maybe be removing from this if you are looking to get Hydra in, or you just say Hydra is going to go to a different squad, maybe a pickup team, and see what he's able to do with a couple other top amps. Like, I don't know.
I don't even know if they're allowed to do that because
maybe not.
He's an official substitute for the New York Subliners, and the Subliners Academy exists. So, like, are they allowed to pull their substitute and allow him to play on a different Challengers team, or does he just not play in Challengers? Because this could actually be terrible for Hydra overall. Like, if the management team, if A, they're not either allowed to put him on another team, and B, beyond that, if they don't want to put him on the academy roster because their academy roster is already playing so well, does Hydra just kind of sit and not have anything to do? Like, the timing of this is actually possibly atrocious for Hydra's career specifically. You have to feel like he's gonna, like, there has to be some guarantee that he's playing somewhere. You don't just move to North America and hope that you're gonna get a spot to start somewhere, whether that's in Challengers. I don't know. Now I'm kind of second guessing myself. Like, I actually don't know. Like, I don't know what to say. Terrified for him. But we'll see what happens. First Challengers Cup this weekend. Don't miss it. Me and this guy are going to be on there casting. Hey, that means we get to our next segment. It's time for a little bit of Chalk or Talk. I think my favorite part about that little transition is just how inclusive the environment is. You got a little bit of a chalkboard eraser. You got the bell. You got the little kids talking. Talk time, Austin, and we got some spicy topics that we will have to decide. Do we want to chalk them up or do we want to talk them up? And I'm going to let you go first because I might be a little bit ruthless on this first one. The topic at bay, though, for us here is Priesta. Can he be a top player for Minnesota in 4v4?
I feel like I got to chalk this one, Alan. Like, he's got one of the lowest KDs in the league right now. Like, what is it? 0.88. Like, it's down there at the bottom. Like, it's not great, man. It's not great. And it's so sad because Priesta has been like a staple of someone who's been such an important factor to a team for how long now? Like the past 2 games, he did it on 100 Thieves. Like the same thing that happened to Toronto today, happened to, that FaZe squad back in Black Ops 4. Like you had some crazy moments from him last year on FaZe where he was obviously extremely successful the very first half of the year, winning a lot of chips and a lot of championships. And we just have not got that same level of Priesthood. Like just watching him individually, like it doesn't feel like he is winning those same crazy multi-kill moments or being able to get those clutch plays in, be that route man, like all those things that Priesta just did where it felt like you never even had to worry about him doing the right thing is now a concern. Like, is he really doing the right thing at the map at all times? And I don't know if it's the role he's playing. I don't know exactly what it is, Alan, but it is very, very concerning right now. And this is not the Priesta we've seen in the last 2 years.
It's not the Priest that we've seen the last 2 years, but I'm actually going to talk this up because I feel like out of everyone on that roster, he is going to be the one to be able to adjust and adapt to play alongside Attach in a very dominating way. The other thing about this is I just don't see this Minnesota roster staying the same, and I see Priesta staying here. I see Major Maniac being the first consideration for a change because he's still playing way too slow, and Priesta's kind of caught in a weird position of how do I kind of mix this back line versus this front line? Because Attach wants to get aggressive. We've even seen instances on Search and Destroy where both of them SNG hit quickly down the middle of, for instance, like the checkmate plane, and it's very successful for them. I still think Priesta can be a top player for Minnesota in the 4v4. My overall problem is the fact that Minnesota is just in a very terrible spot right now, and a change is not just hinted at. It should be required, I think, overall, because the speed they're playing at is the same problems they had from last year, and if it's anything like the decision-making from last year, that means that there will be, I think, an overall change to what they did last year, the same thing that they'll do this year. How about this one, though? LAT's loss to the Gorillas, is that I guess the statement is, the loss to the Gorillas were the Thieves' true colors, ignoring what happened today versus Toronto. Chalking or talking that statement is true?
I think I'm going to chalk that. I mean, I think we saw what they did to Toronto Ultra today, and as much as we saw LEG come out, I feel like maybe it was just them underestimating that LEG squad. I mean, I wasn't thinking they were going to win that series. I think a lot of people had, everybody pretty much picked for the most part that Thieves were going to come out on top in that one. So I'm going to talk this one up because I think Thieves really did show a lot of great signs against Toronto. I mean, not only were they pulling out ahead in a lot of these respawns and, taking control and actually looking pretty strong against a team that does play pretty fast paced, right? Like you have to think this Ultra squad very, very quick, even with their flex ARs compared towards their subs, like a very difficult roster to deal with at times when we see them playing at their best. And I think Thieves did a really good job of shutting them down, like not allowing them to get into a groove. The Search and Destroy, I think, has also been so good as of late, especially when they're playing on Moscow. Like it feels like they really have that map on lock. So I really do want to talk to this Thieves roster because I think that these guys are, again, another squad that's only going to get better with time. And I think that we saw, some great things for as far as that series that they just ended with the 3-0.
Going to the point of the loss of the Gorillas were their true colors, I'm actually going to talk that. I think that the loss that they had versus the Gorillas was more representative of what this Thieves team is comparatively to the win they just found versus Toronto. Because even in that win versus Toronto, there were some moments that they probably should have lost either rotations, search and destroy rounds, or even control rounds beyond that. I think the Thieves roster that played against the Gorillas, that showcase, was that truly 100% how bad they are? I don't think so. But I think that if they were to have played 9 times on the day, I think the Gorillas walk away with 8 of them. I thought the Thieves did not play great hardpoint. I thought they played really sloppy search and destroy. And I think all of that is going to come out and show itself once more when they play in their next matchup versus Chicago, which is, I think, going to be an absolute smackdown. I've personally got that one being one of the biggest blowouts that we've seen so far, which is saying something. We'll talk more on that later. And then this is an interesting one, actually. I caught an instance of this on Twitter. Lando was out there saying that this Cold War game is the most competitive Pro League for COD to date. You chalking that statement or chalking that statement? Did I say that statement? Talking or chalking it?
I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna chalk this one. Maybe my opinion will change as we get throughout the rest of the season, but I think last year was the most competitive we've ever seen the league
Oh.
be.
Ooh.
I think it's because for the simple fact, half the teams won a chip at some point in time. Like I think you go back in time in Call of Duty history, and there's always been like 3 squads that has been able to contest the year. That's always been the standouts, right? And maybe we get one rising squad that makes some roster changes near the end of the year that's able to maybe get an MLG event before we go in towards like the COD Champs final or something like this. But I think last year was the most competitive it's ever been. This year, I mean, we've gotten a lot of game fives, but we've also gotten a lot of 3-0s too. And I imagine that when you compare that number, it's probably slightly in favor of the 3-0s, but I could be wrong on that. But I do feel like last year was probably the most competitive, but things could still change. I mean, again, stage one, very early. And I think there has been a lot of great matchups so far.
I am going to chalk this as well. And I think the reason why I'm not necessarily going to agree that last year was the most competitive year, because it just pains me to say positive words about Modern Warfare overall. But I think for me, it just comes down to the fact that right now you have 3 teams that are so much better than everybody else. It's really not even close. And yeah, you can make arguments that, well, Shift, those top 3 teams have lost the teams below them. Yeah, but I see the skill gap only growing, not shrinking. And I think it's an interesting conversation point, because you look at those top 3 teams, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas. Look at the names that are on those rosters. It's 4 men super squads, essentially. And everybody else is just trying to hang on. And I don't know if that's because of the social influence that they have. I don't know if it's because of the history that some of these players have, or the hype that some of these players have. But it's showing up right now as well, to a lot of ways. So until we see like an LAG or a Thieves team, which I think you could still argue based on their paper of their roster that they are superstars as well, it has to be like an LAG or a Toronto or something like that would have to come through and really shake up the standings before I would say that this year is the most competitive year of COD to date. I think I could see it happening, but I'm not hopeful that that's going to happen. I think this is the best way of me saying that. Which brings us to a different instance here in, we'll just go ahead and introduce the segment before we introduce the piece. It's time for a bit of Get the Trade. So in Get the Trade, the whole idea is that you either reinforce or regain off of a prior hot take. A lot of it happens to be off of the overextended bit that we do, because that's the whole point of the overextended, is to go a handful of steps too far. And well, Visions, you may have gone a touch too far with yours.
Spawn, brother.
Yeah, well, we'll look back at this. This was from the most recent episode that we have. We're literally at 48 hours later, but this was the take that Visions had.
Paris Legion, you see it on their screen. They're going all the way. They're going to be able to pull off a lot of upsets. I think these guys are going to be able to, at the very least, be able to push in towards the top 4. I say this because this is one of these underdog squads that no one had any expectations for. There is no pressure on these guys' shoulders, because we know the Paris Legion brand, well, they haven't done an excellent job at being a brand itself. So we get ourselves in towards 4 players who were all misfits, did not get picked up, essentially just got slotted in, and they end up finding some great success against Atlanta FaZe. Sure, they don't close out that series, but they had some excellent clutch plays. I feel like this is a squad that is really overlooked at the moment, and maybe after that series, people are going to pay them a lot more attention and actually prep for them properly, looking over their VODs, seeing what they're doing. But it just feels like this squad is just probably one of the best teams in the game right now at simply using teamwork. They don't have a superstar player. If you do have one, maybe it's Classic, who's been able to pop off here and there. But I just think that the squad has the potential to be able to run through Florida, run through the next round, depending on who they end up playing up against, and they will have enough in them to be able to beat that one as well. So I just have a lot of faith in these guys. I think they're playing extremely well, and they are one of the best squads with their teamwork in the game currently. Yeah, Alan. We're gonna have to rename this to the down bad segment on here, because that is it's tough, man. All right, so I think that this was overall still, a take that I think a lot of people could have went with, and I think that they really could have made it towards, like a top 6, top 4 kind of placement. I think they just choked, man. Like, I think that they choked versus Florida. Like, Awakening has been the backbone of Florida in so many instances, and I feel like he had one of the roughest series he's had so far in the year up against Paris, and they made it very difficult for him to be, as lethal as he typically is in Search and Destroy or as in his respawns. But there was just a lot of choking that was, I think, taking place, and you could see it on the players' faces. I think that they did lose a little bit of composure after dropping a couple of those first initial maps. And yeah, I mean, this is one where I definitely overextended a little too far, maybe got caught in the enemy spawn, and well, here we are, Alan. So this was a tough pill to swallow.
Tough pill to swallow, my friend. The funny thing about it is I kind of went out and, said that I think you've got some room to work with. I think mostly considering the bracket that they had, but they got smacked.
Nope.
They got smacked. I think the real question beyond this, and ignore the timer going off early, I didn't mean to put that, is, kind of the same thing for the Thieves. Like, is that matchup versus Florida the true colors of this Paris team, or was it just they came out and played a little too sloppy? I think the argument could be made for either. I think my resounding feature is, like, we're not seeing the top teams in the game making those kind of sloppy mistakes at the moment. Everyone is playing really, really clean, and they're punishing teams that are coming out vulnerable. So I don't, my personal, and I think my question is, do you think Paris can make up that ground and get to a point where they are clean and concise and, reducing the amount of mistakes they're making? Because right now it seems like there's a lot.
Well, I think there was a lot of mistakes, but I think there's also a lot of great takeaways too. Like, I think there's a lot of positives. We saw that versus Atlanta FaZe, and that's why I touched on earlier. I think Atlanta FaZe needing that 3-0 was something really important for them because of how that series went against Paris. And there was a lot of moments where I feel like there was just consistency, right? Like, I still believe that this team is one of the best at using teamwork in the game. Like, there isn't a player they're relying on to take over the map, and if he doesn't perform well, Paris isn't performing well. Like, that's not how it works. So I'm still convinced that this squad's going to be able to bounce back here for us and actually make a dent towards stage 2, stage 3.
All right, well, it's time for one of mine. This is from a couple of episodes ago, talking about early favorites in the league. And, well, I had this to say on Chalk or Talk about the Dallas Empire. I'm also going to chalk this, and I think it's just because of the side of the bracket they're on and the simple statistic that the team that comes out of the lower bracket does not often win in Call of Duty overall. And I think that if they do not get through their side of the upper bracket and get to play up against Atlanta in the winners finals, if they do drop to a Chicago or a New York or even to an Atlanta, will they get back to the grand finals and beat any of those teams 2 times in a row? I don't know. I think it'd be very, very difficult to do. So if Dallas are going to be the favorites, they need to win through the winners bracket. And I think just based off of the chances of that happening alone, they're not my favorite right now. And I think if they were on the other side, if they were on the Atlanta side of the bracket, I would have said yes. Another rematch versus LAT versus LAG. Yeah, I think that they absolutely would be. But yeah, that is not what we have in front of us here. So a totally different situation overall. Now, I'll say this much. Yes, we have a situation where Dallas is now in a position to be in that winners finals. But I am going to reinforce my point, saying that Dallas is still not the favorites in this tournament so far. Now, I think they did a great job, like I kind of hinted at, when it came to making Chicago play on some of their weaker hard points. Not their weakest necessarily, but you can take advantage of Chicago on some of those hard points. Them coming out and still fumbling really hard on the Moscow search, and then again, kind of a similar situation on the raid control. When they play up against Atlanta tomorrow, I don't think they're going to get that much reward to kind of be able to punish a team like the FaZe. I think for Atlanta FaZe, they're going to come out and be very, very complete. I think the brains behind the Atlanta FaZe organization are going to come out and make sure that the map vetoes are competitive. And I still do not consider Dallas to be the favorites overall. I think that the win today was impressive. Definitely opened my eyes. But the fact that it had to go map 5 round 11 and still it was really tight, I think Atlanta is a tighter team overall. So I'm actually still going to re-hit this, get my own trade, and essentially push a bit forward on that overextension and say that Dallas is still not the favorites for this tournament, even with their win versus Chicago that they had today.
Damn. That's interesting.
You didn't
That's
see
interesting.
that coming.
I didn't. That was a curveball. We didn't talk about this one before the show, so that one really kind of hit me. That's interesting. So even with Illy and Hook, you think that with the way that they played and Illy had stepped up, there's just no way they're going to be able to go up against this FaZe squad, you think, tomorrow?
Illy stepped up, and I'm happy about that because I owed him on draft buff. But I just don't see him finding that same kind of success versus an Abizi, Sips, Celium, and our cities behind that. I think that what we saw from Atlanta was very complete. Yes, they took a 3-0, but it was a tight 3-0. The fact of the matter was that was an LAG team today that could have won those maps and potentially swayed to beat Atlanta, and they couldn't take a map off of that Atlanta FaZe team. I think still Dallas are not the favorites, even with that win versus Chicago.
The bomb blew up perfectly there too, Alan. It's like you practiced stream.
I don't know about that, but we'll say like it was. We'll see. That might come back to bite me in the ass. But it's time for scrap time. 6 topics, 20 seconds each. I actually still don't know what to do for like a transition to this segment. I feel like we don't necessarily need one, but I feel like it's a little inconsistent to have this be its own segment and not have a transition. I feel like it's looking at me like, Shift, please make a transition for me.
Yeah, something like some like parts like building together in the background, some like hammers going in. I don't know.
Okay, I think
just off the top.
I think that's good. I can work with that. But if again you're your first time listener, first time viewer, scrap time, 20 seconds for 6 different topics. And we got some pretty funny ones. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually really excited about this scrap time. You ready to get this one going here, brother?
Let's get it. Let's get it, Alan.
Let's go ahead and dig right in with the only topic we're talking about. Hey, Clayster vibing with the dad hat. What are you thinking about that potentially being reverse sweep energy?
I'm loving it, dude. I hope Clayster wears that hat tomorrow versus LAG because it was looking good.
I'm not going to lie. I've never been a big fan of the dad hat. I think it ages Clayster more than he needs to. Get a flat bill, do something. Chalk the hat. Not loving it whatsoever. You won't see me purchasing an NYSL flat hat like that. Group B, so far 5-3 versus Group A. Thoughts on that?
I feel like we still have a competitive group in Group A. It's just there's better teams in Group B, but Dallas comes out of there. NYSL might be able to make some moves versus LAG, so I'm still convinced that that group's pretty good.
I'm still looking that Group B is going to, at the end of this, have better placements than Group A. I'm saying, yeah, Group B is the better group from what in Stage 1. How about the control topic? Not having trophies after the restart. Thoughts?
Yeah, we got to do something about that. I don't know. Implement trophies. Let these guys stack up around, get into round 2. I think something's got to be done. Trophies are too important.
Absolutely. Not just for offense, but the defense, I'm sure, would love to have them as well. Obviously, the offense becomes a little bit more hard-pressed to actually get going without that. Prediction time. Chicago, LA Thieves. Who you got?
Chicago, still too good in respawn, and I think they're going to win this one. I think it's going to be 3-1. 3-1.
3-1? Oh, so you're giving some love to the LA Thieves. I
think they'll get away with one.
I'm giving no love to the LA Thieves. I am saying that Chicago got this one 3-0. They're going to stay undefeated in control. They're going to come out hot in the hard point, and they're still going to be very polished in the search. How about Subliners and Gorillas? Thoughts there?
I think that NYSL, Alan, I mean, I'm a fan of the dad hat today. They got the reverse sweep. I'm hoping they come with it against LAG. I think that one's going to go the distance to a game 5.
Look, Andbox and Subliners fan, I love the merch, but I've got to stick with my pick here. The Gorillas are looking really good, really controlled. They played near as good enough to beat the Atlanta FaZe. I think that's going to carry over to tomorrow to give them a win versus New York. Winners final, Atlanta FaZe, Dallas Empire. I mean, I've already made my selection. I've got Atlanta in this one.
I think it's going to be Dallas, man. I think Hook the Nuke looked just too good. He's the best, one of the best players in the game right now. Illy looks good. I think they're going to win this one 3-1.
3-1? Ooh, I've got 3-1 the other way. I've got 3-1 for Atlanta FaZe tomorrow. That brings us to the conclusion of our scrap time, which of course means that we're ready for some viewer questions. And actually, I need to get into Nightbot here and make sure that we get ourselves set up for the giveaway as well. We'll be giving away a Paris Legion CDL team pack live on the air with a keyword that I think I'll probably just have to go ahead and put in right now. So that way everyone has a chance to start getting involved with it. Let's see here. We'll do keyword, and then we need to, how do I select? There it is, keyword. We'll just say it's going to be Paris is the keyword. You don't have to go ahead and, it doesn't have to be capitalized. It's just Paris. Type in Paris and you're entered in for that CDL team pack. Let's start fielding some questions overall here, though. Again, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, we do this show live, and your questions can be answered right there. Or if you're, of course, watching now live on Twitch, of course, we get ourselves in a position to, rewatch, re-listen to things you may have missed on those podcast providers. So, okay, how about this one from Toyota? Assuming smokes come back in Stage 2, what bomb site would you move from any site from any map.
Garrison. Got to move Garrison before checkmate, right?
Has to.
I mean, both need to be moved, or I don't know. Like something's got to be done. It feels like, but I feel like you still got to open up the lane through the back of Garrison and move that side up a bit, and it's not terrible. But I mean, you got to move it to like I don't know, like top green maybe. Like you got to make it so you can get to it. I don't know, man. Like there is a massive problem right now. And I mean, like, how often do we see the bomb planted there? Like the only time you do is
Never.
when it's maybe a 1v1 or 2v2. Like that is the only times we've seen it.
Yeah.
But you're never going to that site off the rip. There's just no chance.
I agree. Yeah, it's I don't think it's ever been planted at the A site in the CDL this year yet. Not a single time. So
Not once.
It's only been planted on A one time, says Tortle. Like,
well, there you
what,
go.
dude?
I mean,
it's like checkmate will still be a little bit difficult, and I feel like even when smokes come back, you're going to continually see the smokes placed over towards A alley to make sure the defense stays honest towards that bomb. But I mean, it's got to be Garrison, and I don't even know with where the bomb site is currently placed. Even if you open up that sat truck alley, if that would even help. I honestly don't even know if that would help because the bomb site is so tucked away in a back corner.
Yeah, you still have to move it. Like even if they'd open it up, I think moving it to like the front entrance. Yeah, the front entrance of that control zone coming out of bricks. I think that would be at least viable in some instance. But checkmate's also brutal too. I mean, that one feels like
both maps need to go. If they remove any map from the entire rotation, what map would it be, and what map would replace it?
Well, we know what map we're removing.
Well, sure. I can't watch checkmate control anymore, dude.
No.
Like people were like, dude, Hackney Dom, I can't watch it anymore. Like, dude, I would
pay Hackney Dom back.
I would pay good money to watch a Hackney Dom right now compared to a checkmate control.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like I don't know. We saw an offense, I think, go over today, right? Like I think we saw one go over. I'm trying to remember.
Almost a second.
NYSL, right?
Yeah, almost a second at the end there.
Almost a yeah. We'll forget about that one.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's just the map. Like, I think that is the most boring map at the moment, and I don't think it's too bad for Hardpoint. I don't. Like,
no,
I
think it's
don't
fine
mind
for
Hardpoint.
I'm right.
It's just for control. Yeah, you got to get it out. I don't know what you bring in. I mean, like, do we give Express a go? Like, what do the control zones look like on Express?
I don't know.
I feel like the Express topic has kind of just went out the window, and I'm still like, yo, what's going on? Like, let's get it in, dude.
This would have been in. We don't know. We don't even know if the league considering changing the rotation of maps. But we do know that Treyarch is in a position that they're happy to change the current maps. This would have been, during Power Week, if they would have said Express is going to come in for Stage 2 in place of this. That would have been, I think, the most achievable way to do it because you're making changes to Moscow, you're making changes to Crossroads, and you make subtle changes to Raid. So if you were to insert a map in, this would have been the time to do it. So the fact now that they're not, I don't know. Like, we would have to be waiting until Stage 3 at the earliest, and I feel like at that point the conversation will be so far out the window that it'll just be kind of dead and forgotten about.
Yeah, I think so. It's it's tough, man. We gotta do something though. Stage 2 at least. Like I'm hoping something comes in.
I'm excited to see. How about this? Will Moscow be a better control map without the deep back statue area?
Yeah, we talked about that. I mean, if we move that zone up, like I think you touched on it, right? Like right by Eskies, where you can contest on both sides. Like
I think that'd be
fun.
I
think that could be viable. You have a pinch for the middle of the map. You have a flank through cutout. Like, yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot.
I would love to see it. I mean, teams were starting to figure out Moscow and scrims and
they were,
before we even got into the kickoff weekend, really. This one coming out of Firelord. We already asked that one. Nice question. Good question, Firelord. We almost read it twice. Ashton asks, who do you have as first and second coming out of this major, and what do you think the groups will look like next stage? That's right, because the teams select who plays in each group next time, whoever finishes first and second. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so I think the top two, at least coming in towards what we're going to get here for ourselves, I want to say it's going to be like, I mean, we know it's going to be probably one of the three. Like, it's going to be between probably FaZe, OpTic, and Dallas. But I want to say, I mean, I have OpTic winning the entire thing. Even after dropping to the losers bracket, I think that they're still going to bounce back. Probably going to be, I think it might be a Dallas OpTic, is what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, you're gonna get two of the three that we just mentioned in the same group. It just comes down to who finishes first, I guess. Like
Yeah.
if Atlantis finishes first, it's gonna be Dallas and Chicago in the same, or you put the such scenarios in your head. But what do you think about the groups? I guess this is kind of a way to kind of list it out. So you're gonna get two of the top three.
Mm-hmm.
You're who are you picking to win again? You picking Dallas to win? Is that what you said?
I have OpTic to win.
You have OpTic to win. So you would have what? Who's your grand finals? OpTic Dallas?
OpTic Dallas, yeah.
Okay, so you would have Dallas and Chicago in the same, or Dallas Atlanta in the same group. Then who else do you have in that first group with them?
If they're picking, right? Like,
Yeah,
I forget how the format kind of works.
So Chicago
like
would, if you've got Chicago winning against Dallas, Chicago picks.
they're both put into
They go
different groups
back
automatically.
Yeah, they put in different groups automatically, and they pick each other's group. So
Oh,
essentially, Chicago would pick Atlanta to go into Dallas's group then if they win.
yeah. Whoever wins first is sending probably Atlanta to that group right away, and then it'll kind of trickle down to like probably like your NYSLs to probably going like vice versa over towards the other one. Like all the top teams that we currently have in there, like Thieves, and then we'd get towards the bottom where like I don't think it would matter too much. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because
it's difficult.
You don't know the results.
You don't know the results, right?
Yeah, and it would just be all like the top 4 teams going in towards the other one, and then everyone just kind of putting the other one in that they don't like playing against or something like that.
You know what? I'm starting to kind of put some parallels together. I feel like the Los Angeles Guerrillas are the Enigma 6 of Cold War.
Yeah?
I feel like people are just like forgetting, like they're gonna forget how good they are. Like I feel like in the picking process for groups, people are gonna
in the group
they're gonna forget that the Guerrillas are good.
Disrespect them.
Yeah, there's gonna be a little bit of disrespect towards the Guerrillas.
Yeah, I could see that. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we'll give them the Gorillas."
Yeah,
and the Gorillas come out and like top the group
for like one of the last picks. Like, oh right, the Gorillas are still involved. I don't know. That's good. The groups, I think, is too hard of a question to fully answer because there's too many situations. OpTic S&D. It's looked great. Top 3 S&D team at the moment. Your mind?
I think so, man. Like, I think that's fair. Oh man, I think so.
Tough question.
Like, it is tough because I don't even know. I still have Atlanta FaZe, I guess, up there. I did add Toronto up there, but I probably don't anymore. That's for sure. Yeah, I think that OpTic's in there. Like, I think even last year, as we got towards the end of the year, like that Chicago roster, like was a top 3 search and destroy squad. Yeah. Like, I think they really cleaned things up, and everyone just always had this like narrative and storyline of like OpTic, where it's like these guys are good at respawn, but they got to figure out search and destroy. They got to figure out search and destroy. Even something the analysts have always pushed over the years, where I feel like they always like start out slow in search and destroy, but once they focus on it, like they put it together, and you have really good S&D players on there, man. Like Dashy came from the search and destroy scene, Envoy came from the search and destroy scene. Like I think those guys are fine in their top 3.
I am going to agree with that statement that Chicago has turned itself into a top 3. Statistically, they are not a top 3 team right now, but I don't really care about that. I care about what I've seen in the last couple of outings, and Chicago has looked great. I mean, out of the last 5 search and destroy appearances, we'll even go last 6. Round 10 loss to Toronto. Round 9 win versus LAG. Round 11 win versus Florida. 6-1 and a 6-2 versus New York and Dallas, respectively, then a round 11 loss. So, I mean, ever since they got beat up by the Atlanta FaZe, they have been good in search. Like, very good in search. I'm still surprised Minnesota is 6-2 overall in search and destroy, because I think their search and destroy is not clean whatsoever. But
yeah, they got exploited a bit yesterday.
They've been exploited a couple of different times, and I feel like the times that they win, they're winning close games versus teams that also aren't very good right now. Let's see here. What else do we got? What needs to happen to make checkmate control better? Take it out of the rotation. If OpTic makes the grand final, do you think they have an advantage since they have a big respawn map pool in a potential best of 9? I think that's actually a good point. Wait, I forgot that. Oh, wait, the stage finals best of 9s?
I didn't even know that.
Are they, or are they best of 5s? I don't even know if that's.
I thought it was going to be 2 best of 5s, but if that's the case, then what are they giving them, like a 1 or 2-0 map lead?
Oh, what is a best of 9 grand final?
Oh,
that
actually could be really good for them.
Can I change my pick to Chicago winning?
No. It's logged in.
The thing is, they have to get to the grand finals first. I think if you're a Chicago fan, if you get to the grand finals through this lower bracket, which means that essentially you have to go through the winner of you beat LAT, and then beat Gorillas or Subliners, and then you have to play the loser of Dallas and Atlanta. So the road is still pretty shaky to get there. But I think if you do get there, I agree. At best of 9, I don't know if anyone can beat them at a best of 9 right now. That's actually such a valid point.
That does change a lot, right? I think that's a great point to bring up. And yeah, if they get there, like I think they're still too solid in respawn. I know they dropped to 2 HPs to Dallas today, but I still think that across like all the maps and even a lot of the controls too, I feel like they've been pretty good. Like are they undefeated
in control? They're 7-0.
Yeah. So like I mean, like there is still a lot to take away from the respawn. So I mean, I think they would be in a great spot if that's the case and they get there. It's just a matter of getting there. I think will be the biggest problem.
I think so. Yeah, and winner from winners final would get a map up. Yeah, that's true. Wow, it's kind of embarrassing that we didn't know that for sure. Okay, let's take one more question, then we'll do the giveaway. Again, if you want to be entered for that giveaway, Paris Legion skin, just type Paris in the chat. That's all you have to do. Paris. Type it in the chat, and you're good to go. I think currently we only have 2 people who have typed it. That's embarrassing. Type in the word right now, and you'll be in
free
there.
Skim.
It's free, dude. That's what is it? It's like $10 for. We're giving away $10 right now. Hell, if you don't like the Paris Legion, you could give it away to a friend who does.
Give it away to a friend.
We don't care. It's just a code. Type it in. Type the word right now. Not actually the word right now. Type Paris in right. There we go. There's the activity we're looking for. Final question overall. Wait, this chat's scrolling so fast I can't do it. Oh, do you prefer 4 hill or 5 hill hardpoint maps?
I don't think I have a preference. I like 5. Like what? We have which ones do we have? 5, and we have Garrison. Garrison's 5. I like 5. Like I don't think there's any problem with having 4 or 5. Like
5?
Sure, maybe you could take one out. Yeah, Raid's 5. Raid plays excellent. I think even like Standout from back in the day was like 5. So like, yeah, I mean, I don't have a preference. I think it just depends on the map, right? Like if the map's too small, you
depends on the map.
Don't want to have 5 zones. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a preference.
Yeah, I don't have a preference either. What I will say about my preference for hardpoint maps, I love when it's either equally split or there are 3 of the 5 that are in the middle of the map. So it's not side dependent. Like I think playing for rotation is obviously important. But getting spaces to where, like for instance, Moscow, I don't love the way that the hard points rotate, where it goes literally in a counterclockwise fashion. You start middle, you go to the right, you go up and over to the top left, you go down to the bottom left, and you're right back over. I don't like that. I would have rather seen them go back and forth, because then you don't have the ability to essentially string 2 hard points together really quickly, because you just have to stay on the same side. It's the same conversation for like Crossroads right now as well.
Yeah, Crossroads.
Like it just overloads on one side. Even though they have made the change to put 2 hard points in the middle of the map, I still don't think that the way the map forms, that you're actually evenly dispersing how the sides work. Yeah, 5 hill should be a star pattern. Exactly. The only worry about doing star patterns is that you like are literally forcing teams to make a rotation from old to new in the exact furthest rotation that exists. That's why I like there being a little checkpoint in the middle. Like if you start middle, you go to one side, you come back to the middle.
You're already halfway there.
You go to the other side, you come back to the middle.
The spawns is also closer to you. So yeah, you're not spawning across the map. Yeah, exactly.
Also for Moscow, just switch P2 and P3 in order to make it better, I think. I agree. You'd have to change up the spawns a little bit, though, because the spawns are pretty heavy loaded for the P2. What would be that left side of the mini-map, where they currently are for P1. All right, last chance, PARIS to get in. No subscriber extra luck today. Sorry there, friendos. We'll just kind of run this one as normal. And then you guys will have to kind of stay with us in tune with socials, because Austin and I are going to be casting on Sunday all day for the Challengers Cup. So we're actually going to be probably missing every single match that happens on Sunday in the CDL because it's running simultaneously. So we may have to do a Monday episode instead of a Sunday night episode, depending on what time the Challengers Cup ends versus how much we're able to actually watch on Sunday, because we don't want to come out here and like fake it. Because I'll be honest, I also cast Valorant all day tomorrow, so I might not be able to see much. And we have rehearsal tomorrow. We actually might not.
We have rehearsal.
Yeah, we might actually not be able to see many games over the next 2 days. So I'm kind of leaning towards we'll do a Monday show where we can kind of get caught up on what happened.
Yeah, we'll have to, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Might
it
be
is
the
an
play.
off week though too. We could always save it for Wednesday. We could just do it right in the middle
Yeah,
of the week.
and
since
just do like a
and just do
that's true.
one show. I think I should like that a little bit better because we're not rushing to watch the games.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll do Wednesday. But regardless, stay tuned to social about that. Let's run this. Rolling it. Winner is Tordo. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. I know that you're in chat, so I'll just go ahead and hit you up and give you the code. Congratulations on that, my man. Big grats all the way through. But Austin, that takes us to the end of our show.
It takes us here, man. It's a good day of games, man. It just feels like we're back to the old format. You know, it's like
I
a
know it.
nice build up to the end of the tournament coming through for us. It's gonna be great. Good time today, man. Maybe not the end of the day, but the start of the day was good.
I know. You had to have a little bit of a regain. I'm still kind of
did.
like trying to find a regain. I haven't had any dinner yet. All I've had is a bowl of soup, and it's like a half a bowl of soup. It's like a cup of soup. I love that. 8 out of 8 giveaways I've lost, man. That's tough. Happens.
Got four more.
We say farewell for now. Again, stay tuned on everything socials for when we do our next episode for number 11. But until next time, hope that you guys keep that fuse lit. Do not let it fizzle out. So long. Bye-bye.